Hello, Gospel Life Church. Good to see you today, June 23rd, and another weekly devotional for you today. And just wanted to share a verse that I read yesterday. Nothing too crazy. Was just a passage as I was going through in my own personal life, Old Testament one day, New Testament the other. It was in the book of Hosea, and read this verse in Hosea chapter 9 and verse 10. Like grapes in the wilderness, I found Israel. Like the first fruit on the fig tree in its first season, I saw your fathers. So the Lord's talking to Israel, and he reminds them of when he first took them in, first chose them, first decided to bless them as a nation through Abraham. And he describes them as grapes in a wilderness, something that is delightful, something that was refreshing, you might say. So he's in the wilderness. Picture it, and you see these grapes, and there's potential there. There's great desire there, like the first fruit on the fig tree in its first season. I saw your fathers, and then the transition in this passage, verse 10 still. But they came to Baal Peor and consecrated themselves to the thing of shame, and they became detestable like the thing that they loved. So in some ways, he's kind of mixing a little bit of the history here. And, I saw you when I first chose you, and then your fathers as well were in the wilderness. They were wandering through. I had to take care of them. I took care of them through the wilderness. Then they go to Baal Peor, and he reminds them of that incident. And what he says at the end is kind of really what I want to focus on today. And consecrated themselves to the thing of shame. And then this last phrase, and became detestable like the thing they loved. There's a concept you see throughout Scripture. They loved these idols at Baal Peor. They worshiped them at Baal Peor in a way that was detestable. And so you have that famous Phinehas who loved the Lord and went in and took care of the situation. But the point that he makes is what I want to talk about today. They became like the detestable thing that they loved. And it's such a picture of what you see throughout the Old Testament, and even in our own hearts as we deal with sin and as we fight against sin. Another passage in the Old Testament talks about that when you basically worship idols, you become like the idols, deaf, mute, dumb, spiritually. You become like what you worship. You become like what you gaze at, is another way to think of it. So for us, it was just a reminder, at least for me personally, that as I face temptation, as I am confronted with my own idolatry in my own heart, if I dwell on that, if I give into that, if I let it take an inch, as it were, it's going to want to take a mile, and I eventually will turn into the thing that I am viewing, the thing that I am becoming, the thing that I am looking at that is overtaking me. I become like the sins that I might give myself into. In contrast, though, right? New Testament, 2 Corinthians chapter 3, if we gaze at the glory of the Lord, what happens? He transforms us into his image. And so it's a reminder for each day to get up and say, Lord, what do you want me to do today? Who am I looking at? What is driving how I live, what I do, and what I say? Because I become like the image I gaze at. And something the Lord challenged me with yesterday. Hope is a challenge for you today. And as you go throughout the rest of this week, just a reminder, what you gaze at is what you look like and start to become. So I hope you have a wonderful day in the Lord. I will see you later.